Hello and welcome to the Therapy Floor with Dr. Ritz and Dr. Vicky.
We are on the floor getting deep into the human experience, unpacking people's everyday dilemmas through the lens of two psychologists.
Let's start unpacking today's dilemmas.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. So today's dilemma comes from a 34-year-old male who says he drags his feet with tasks. There are so many things to do, different things to do, and I don't know where to start, so I don't start any of them. When I finally decide to do it, I get quite annoyed when things don't go to plan. Here's an example. I had a new work desk being set up at home. I was expecting 2 monitors and only 1 arrived. I was so irritated with the delivery company. I felt as though I was dependent on them to get the task completed and my hands were tied. I found it difficult to focus on anything else. For example, I would walk over to where the desk is to keep looking at the empty monitor space. When I was stood there, I would get anxious, annoyed, and impatient. I kept going back to look at it and couldn't focus on completing my work. I know how I like to work, and when those conditions aren't there, I find it really difficult. Why does it bother me when things don't go to plan, and my anxiety and frustration stops me getting other things done? Thank you for this dilemma. So, Ritz, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, what's really jumping out to me initially is this chap has created conditions to work or to be productive, so to speak. And in his mind, anxiety and the lack of certainty that he associates the two together is what's stopping him from being productive. So certainty for him seems to equal feeling less anxious.
Yeah.
And when he hasn't got that certainty, when he hasn't created those conditions of having the 2 monitors there that he can set up and, create this workspace that he imagines for himself, that then starts to bubble away and, trigger those feelings of annoyance, irritation, frustration, anxiety.
Yeah. I really like the fact that you touched on the lack of certainty causing anxiety or the association with the two, because I didn't necessarily think of that straight away.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking about the lack of control creating the anxiety. But I think it's more than that, like you were saying, because at the beginning he said that he even really struggles to get started when he has lots of different things to do. And so at that point, you're not thinking about the lack of certainty, are you? You're not thinking about the lack of control. You're thinking, what's this going to look like? Where do I start? How is this all going to play out? How will I fit it all in? Do you know what I mean? And I think that speaks more to the lack of certainty versus just the lack of control. So yeah, I thought that's quite an interesting point.
I think the two also probably slide in quite well with each other, don't they? There's probably going to be a bit of complementing going on there. Because I also agree with you that I do think there's a lack of control here, that he feels, he's getting annoyed at the company.
Yeah.
The company is somehow controlling his ability to be productive.
Yeah.
So I think he does probably hold that in his mind as well, like, I'm out of control, my hands are tied, I can't do anything about this. And that frustration is probably really carrying itself in his body. The way I'm seeing him tolerate it and manage it is, I'll keep going back to the desk,
pacing back and forward.
It's almost like if I keep going, then maybe it will just pop up. It kind of almost reminds me of like a child, maybe, that wants some chocolate from his mummy, and then the mum's like, no chocolate now, and then he'll like come back again. Is it there yet? Is it there? Has it happened? Has it happened? And I think there's a tolerating element to all of this as well.
Yeah. Not being able to tolerate the fact that actually things aren't able to move forward in the way that he wants it to move forward right now. So, I mean, his question was, why do I get frustrated over things like this? And I think with anything like this, with any kind of behaviour that we typically exhibit or any kind of pattern of relating or being that we get into, we need to take a step back and think about, where did this first start? Like, how did this first come about? When did I first start to feel anxious and frustrated when things didn't go to plan? Or in my life, what does it look like when things don't go to plan? Even as a child, what did you witness from people around you who how do they manage their feelings of frustration or disappointment when things didn't go smoothly? How did people adapt to change around you? I think it's a good idea to start looking back to understand why we are the way we are right now.
And you know what? I would even encourage maybe going back a bit further. So maybe not even starting with the frustration and the anxiety yet, but just what did making plans look like?
Yeah.
How did you, do you even have like first memories or ideas of yourself making a plan? Like making your own plan for something?
Yeah.
What did that look like? And then people around you, your caregivers, when they made plans, what did that look like?
Yeah. Yes, Ritz. Because the more we're talking about it now, I'm thinking it's the plan. It's the planning that is frustration, isn't it? Frustrating, rather. Getting started. Like there's a little bit of dis-ease with making a plan and following through with a plan. Adapting to a plan.
Adapting.
Yeah.
Adapting. I think that's key here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And it can be really, really hard. I mean, maybe I can talk about my own personal experiences and talk about times when I've been frustrated. And I was someone who really, really didn't like change and didn't like things kind of like, well, I think to some extent still, I don't like things kind of like not going ahead with the idea that I've set out in my mind. Like, this is how life is going to go. And when things come in, I'm like, this isn't part of the plan. But I think I'm better at it now. But I was just remembering when one of our friends, Kirsty, when she was going to leave to go traveling with her husband, not soon after we graduated. And we've been a 3, like, for all of our training. And I was like, I'm not happy with this plan. Like, this isn't what I expected. We were going to be the 3 musketeers.
Yeah.
What do we call ourselves? Neapolitan girls.
Neapolitan girls.
Yeah, different shades of ice cream.
I loved it.
Because Kirsty's white. So I was like, this doesn't fit in with my plan. Like, you were going to go and work in London. You were going to go into private work. Kirsty was going to go into like trauma. I was going to go and work in personality disorders, and our lives were going to bumble along like this.
We were going to still be together.
We were still going to be together.
Because we had so much physical contact as well. I think that was so important.
Yeah, and because you guys were such like a security blanket for me, like we had gone through such a difficult training period together, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to feel wobbly. I'm starting my career and I don't have my reinforcers behind me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just one silly example of how, I've really found it hard to adapt to changing situations because I had an idea that this is how things are supposed to go. And really, what was underneath it was, if plans change, will I cope? Will I still be standing, or will I fall short?
I think it was also underneath it all, I think you were just upset.
Yeah, there was that too.
Yeah, like, can I share?
Yeah.
Vicky, like, spoke to me afterwards. No, I don't even think you spoke to me afterwards. I think in that moment, it was in the moment because I was quite shocked. I was like, oh my God, I'm a bit scared.
I was kind of semi-joking though.
Oh, were you? But didn't come across like She said, oh, okay, right, well, I think I'm just going to have to take a step back and just go through this on my own for a little bit, because I had this idea like we were all going to be together, and now that's not happening. So I'm just going to take a step back from this friendship at the moment, and just not in a way where you were like, I'm not going to be friends. It wasn't like that. I think you were almost in shock.
Yeah, no, I was.
And so your way of dealing with that upset was to be like, I can't deal with it. I just need to protect myself from this. And if we kind of maybe link it back to what this fellow is talking about, I think he's doing the same thing in terms of a protective mechanism. I think when we feel anxious or when we feel upset, we don't feel safe.
Yes.
So we want to go to something that feels familiar to us.
Yeah.
And when things don't feel familiar, we either, shut down, or we find ways of coping with it that maybe aren't very helpful for us, or we shut away people that maybe want to try and help us or connect with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I was gonna reference his frustration, and his anger, and sometimes we can flip to anxiety when, well, we can flip to anger and frustration when we're really actually feeling anxious and nervous.
I really am such a firm believer that anger is a secondary emotion.
100%. I really agree with that too.
Yeah. There's always something underneath it, usually upset or fear.
Yeah.
The anxiety part.
Exactly.
But the anger comes out first.
Yeah. So his frustration at the delivery company, my frustration at Kay for leaving, underneath that was some anxiety, or underneath that is some anxiety. And so again, going back to, what I was saying, what's underneath this, what does this say about him if he doesn't manage change well, or things not going to plan well? What does that say about him? Is he safe?
I'd be really keen to know, how has he managed change?
Yeah.
Like, what changes has he experienced in his life that were maybe out of his control, and how did that impact him? What did he learn about the world? What did he learn about himself in relation to the world? And then how did that form behaviors going forward for him?
Yeah. And then I think once he's kind of done some digging and he's had a bit more exploration about what all these things meant and what it looked like for him in his formative years, I'd then move to, okay, what does he need to feel safe? And what does he need to feel capable, okay, good enough, trusting the process, trusting that things will work out.
Because it's not certainty.
Yeah, it's not. No, that's the trap, isn't it? Thinking that we need certainty to feel safe, but we don't.
Yeah, because that's why he can't get started on these plans.
Exactly.
So you're right, it's about encouraging him to think about, rather than looking outwards at, I need this, 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 and this to go to plan. It's about encouraging him to actually go inwards and think, what do I draw upon myself for me to start moving forward?
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't go to plan, or even if, that monitor doesn't come for another 2 weeks, well, he can't not work for 2 weeks, or maybe he can, I don't know, but that's not really productive.
Yeah.
He's almost then getting in his own way.
I love this. I love how we've kind of like started with something that may seem quite benign actually, and like, okay, is it really that deep? But it's deep enough that he's wondering about, why does this keep happening? There's something in his response that doesn't feel right somehow. Well, I don't want to use the word right, but he doesn't feel comfortable with.
It's not. It's a question. It's bothering him, isn't it? Like you said. Why does it bother me so much?
Yeah.
Like, he's interested to understand himself. But often, I think people do think, oh, I've got to go to therapy. If I go to therapy, I have to. I shouldn't be wasting the psychologist's time. I've had that a lot in my clinic, where sometimes clients have said to me, oh, but this sounds really silly to talk about. It's not, as you said, deep. It's not that deep. But actually, I think those are sometimes the most fruitful conversations.
Yeah. Or those conversations where someone comes in and I typically say, where's your mind been this week? And they're just like, well, I don't really have anything to say. And then we kind of sit through the discomfort of us looking at each other like, okay. And then something like this comes out. It's like that iceberg, isn't it? An iceberg on the surface seems quite small, but deep down it has deep roots, which leads into other areas of our lives. So yes, this may not be a life or death situation for him, but having a greater understanding of how he processes change, adapting, maybe not feeling like he's perfect, can manifest in so many areas and can lead to improvement in so many other areas. So actually things like this are very important to address.
Absolutely. I think at the heart of it all, what he's really hopefully going to be learning how to do is tolerate and hold himself through uncertainty.
Yeah. Because boy, life is gonna continue to
be uncertain
and throw up uncertainties. And just like, that seems like a very benign situation that I brought up with like Kirsty going traveling, for goodness sake. But it helped me clue in to something deeper within me, which is, how safe do I feel to be on my own, and what does it mean for me to be on my own?
It was almost like your wings were being clipped.
Yeah.
These wings that we grew as a trio.
Yeah.
That we really support each other so much through our training. Like, I genuinely could not have done it without you girls. That's scary to then think, oh my God, we're going now into the real wide world and forming our own practices, our own clinics, having our own clients, our patients, whatnot, probably having trainees ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it led to something, like deeper, which is, can I do this? I'm supposed to be here helping other people. What the hell am I doing? Can I do it? Can I do it if things aren't in a particular place that I've, placed them in my mind?
It's that self-doubt, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was really helpful, actually. It's really eye-opening. And you know what? I didn't even realise it until you pointed it out, and until Kirsty said as well, like, oh. I think she might have been a bit upset with me, and rightly so. I mean, what a ridiculous response. But I didn't even realise that that's what I was doing.
But it was also such a you response. Like, I appreciated the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was shocked, but then I was like, no, but that is Vicky. That is who Vicky is. Like, she's just, if that's how she feels, she's going to tell us, and she should tell us how she feels.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily mine or Kirsty's job to take care of you through that, but it was to just give you the space to say, okay, yeah, you're upset, that's okay. And I don't even think we figured it out with you. Like, you figured that out yourself, what was going on.
Yeah.
But it was more that we gave you the space to have those feelings. We didn't judge you for it. We didn't say, oh my God, now that you're being like this, we can't be friends anymore.
Yeah, oh, thank goodness you didn't. Oh my gosh. That would have been terrible. That would have been awful. See, I feel like I've totally eclipsed this dilemma today with my own stuff. But I hope that has been helpful for anyone else who sees themselves in the light of this guy or myself, just dealing with change, right?
Dealing with change, and if you're just somebody who doesn't like uncertainty, hopefully some of these questions that we are posting to you and asking you to think about, asking this fellow to think about, hopefully they will just spark something in you that might start giving you an idea of if this is something that you're struggling with or thinking about.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. Have you got?
This comes in from a 28-year-old female. I'm in a long-term relationship, but my partner and I are growing apart. I know deep inside that our relationship won't be forever, but I can't take the action and break up with him. It feels like it's not the right time and I don't want to rush it. Am I right to wait, or is it just the fear of change and maybe the fear of hurting him that makes me stay? How can I figure out when the time is right? Interesting one. What are your thoughts, Vicky?
Can I be honest?
Yes. This is why we love you.
I think that the time is now. The time is now. If you're starting to have these questions and you've been thinking about them for a long time, the time is now. And that may sound very harsh and very blunt, and I'm not making light of the situation or making light of how difficult it is and how upsetting it will be to hurt someone that you love or have loved. It really is difficult. However, I don't know if I've come across anybody in a relationship or who has ended a relationship who looks back and says, I should have ended it later. I think everyone usually says, I wish I had done this sooner, or I wish I hadn't wasted time, or I wish I hadn't dragged it out, because ultimately that leads to further hurt, more confusion. So I think that there is never a right time, but if we want to say there is a right time, I'm going to be blunt and really blasé and say the right time is now. What, I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I'm quite a firm believer that she's already, I'm going to just read it again, actually. I just want to come back to what she said. I know deep inside our relationship won't be forever. I mean, for me, why are you in a relationship then?
Go there.
Yeah.
Go there, Ritz.
Surely you're getting into a relationship because you see longevity.
If that's what she wants. If that's what they both wanted. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to know if she wanted, what were her plans and expectations for this relationship in the first place. But I like what you were saying though, and I want to hear a bit more about why you think that. Why is she in a relationship if it doesn't want to last forever? Like, what were your thoughts?
I guess my thoughts were, she's kind of setting it up like, I want a long-term relationship, right? So what she said, I'm sorry, I keep picking this up and going back to it. I think it's really stuck out for me. I'm in a long-term relationship, right?
Okay,
so she's already saying,
yeah,
she believes in long-term relrelationships because she's in one, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
But my partner and I are growing apart. So they're growing apart. That's not working for her because there's the but there.
Yeah.
And I know deep inside that our relationship won't be forever. So I guess that's why I was saying in my head, if you want to be in a long-term relationship and you already have these feelings, well, he's not going to be the person that I want to be with forever. There's your sign.
Yeah.
There's your red flag.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend the rest of your life, it looks like, with this person. So why are we still...
Why are you still there?
Why are you still there? And so that was what was interesting to me, because that's what I would go into. You already know it's over. Why are you still there?
Yeah.
What's keeping you there?
Yeah.
And it sounds like to me, what's keeping her there is fear. And I would be really wanting to know about endings in her life.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like she's trying to create this perfect ending.
Yeah.
For their relationship. And I know, why wouldn't you want a relationship to end amicably? And in, therapy, we talk about not perfect, but we talk about good enough endings. But it just seems like there's something she's creating here where she maybe doesn't want to go through the hurt and the pain of an ending.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm also thinking about? I'm thinking about her assumption or belief that she may hurt her partner by ending. And normally you wouldn't even think twice about that, would you? Because it makes sense. It's a logical thing to let someone down or to end something that has been really important in your life. You don't want to inflict that pain upon the other person. But even the idea that she may be doing that suggests some kind of imbalance there, don't you think?
Can you say more?
How do I phrase this? When I worry about hurting, I'm going to say a child. I worry about hurting a child because I know that I'm in a position of, like, not authority,
Power.
but power. There's a power difference here.
And I got that sense too. It was almost like she was taking care of him.
Yeah.
Like a mother figure.
Yeah. Yeah. And why? Like, why does she view their relationship in this way? I mean, there's the assumption, I'm guessing, that he may not want to end the relationship. Do you know what I mean? But actually, is that an assumption, or is that truth, or is that an assumption?
What's her evidence for that?
What's her evidence for believing that this will hurt him? He could actually feel quite liberated too. He may want to end the relationship too, but he's thinking he doesn't want to hurt you. But I think the very thought of wanting to take care of someone So therefore, I'm going to avoid being true to myself in order to take care of you is very problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking about this lady's attachment style.
Yeah.
She sounds quite avoidant.
Yeah.
You know, she's avoiding her own needs, because she's almost like projecting the other person's needs.
Yeah.
Or projecting her needs onto that other person.
Yeah.
So she's denying what she needs in order to take care of him.
Yeah.
And we see that in avoidant attachment styles. You know, you're avoiding deep down what is meaningful to you, what is your priority, what's bringing you value, what's your purpose. And, you know, I guess other thoughts would be how long has she been feeling this? Is this like a long-term thought? Is it something that's just popped up? Is it after an argument? Is it a reactive thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And in what ways are they growing apart? Are they becoming different people, or are they becoming just less interested in each other? Do they have different values? You know, like what's behind the growing apart? Actually, that could tell a lot, doesn't it? Because I don't think that just naturally happens. You just naturally grow apart from someone. I think society these days likes to make it as though if someone isn't serving your needs, you kind of move on. Like go where you need to go. Like not everyone can come with you on your journey. Oh my gosh, that I despise that one. I despise that because there's just so much more to understand. So what is the reason for the growing apart, and something that you once thought, yeah, this is going to be long term, now is no longer working for you. And it's okay. It's okay for that to happen. But also, yeah, I think she's right to be asking herself some questions here. I'd also say on the other end, you know, how would she feel if this were her partner wondering the same thing and ending a relationship that isn't working for him? How would she feel?
Part of me is actually, my gut reaction to that is maybe she would want to feel in a safe and secure place before it's ended.
Yeah.
Like, again, projecting those ideas onto him.
Yeah.
Or I need to, when is the right time to end it?
Yeah, as if that's what he would need, because that's what she needs. Yeah. Yeah.
How does she feel safe and secure? What does that look like for her? What does it look like to feel safe and secure when you're not in a relationship? When you've lost that. Because even though they've grown apart, I guess it's still going to be familiar. Oh, I can't say that word today.
Familiarity.
And when you lose that familiarity, how do you still create that sense of safety for yourself? Might not be working for you, but it's still familiar.
Yeah. I think this is where attachment styles can be helpful to think about this, because you know, I think it's good to look at, what does make me feel safe? Because attachment is all about, how do I feel safe and vulnerable and secure in relationships? And if I am avoidant, it's because there is that fear of being seen. There is that fear of being attended to, because what happens actually if this person lets me down, like other people have let me down? Relationships and closeness isn't safe. Does she feel a close knitting with her own identity? Does she feel secure in who she is as a person? Does she know what she's about? Does she know what her values are? Does she know what her priorities are? Does she know what relationships mean to her? Becoming intimate and knowledgeable with your own identity can help, I think, for you to start to feel secure outside of a relationship.
Absolutely. And I guess I'd also be wanting to know, like, how has she ended relationships in the past, and for what were those reasons did she end those relationships in the past? And also tying back in with this attachment style thinking, does she tend to go for maybe men that are quite anxious? Because we know that an anxious attachment style and an avoidant attachment style, like together,
they lock.
Yeah, they just attract each other, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, so who is she also without that feeling of being needed, with the possibility of being able to push someone away, actually? Because that can be quite frightening, you know? And that's why you would tend to, your dysfunction would meet up with someone else's dysfunction. They would, they'd really, you could hook your coat onto the peg, you know? What does it feel like to actually not be needed because of someone's insecurity, but just be wanted?
Yeah.
Does that feel okay or not?
I feel like that's such a healthy, grown-up version of a relationship, though.
Yeah. Say more.
And it's not often talked about, is it?
No, but say more.
Just this idea that we don't have to be in relationships, right? It's not this end goal that we have to aspire to be in. Like, if we're in them, that's great. But I think relationships are really about this idea of, I want to be with you because I see you, because I want you, not because you help me to fulfill something in me.
Yes.
Or because you give me something I can't give myself.
Yeah.
But it's more this idea of what I see in me, you see in me too.
Yeah.
And you enjoy it as much as I do. And that more complementary style, rather than, you know, I often draw my patient circles of relationships, where we can either kind of, I just put it on here, we can either be really far apart or we can be really enmeshed in relationships. And I always say that, you know, the overlap really should only be about a third.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you have this whole other life.
Yeah.
That really is just about you, not about your whole relationship. And they have this whole other life as well. That really is just about them and not about your relationship. But you can champion each other through that and champion yourself through it too.
Yeah. But I don't think we really encourage people. I don't think necessarily we really encourage people to feel complete and whole as themselves, because that's where it starts, isn't it? Because if you were to feel an insecure, whether they're insecure avoidant or insecure anxious, there is a lack of security within themselves, within who am I? Like, am I enough as I am? It starts with that. And I don't think we do enough to really help people to develop a really healthy sense of self, to know that I'm okay when I'm with someone, I'm okay when I'm without someone. I'm even okay as a standalone without having to flick someone away. Because I think also that's another function of like someone who is anxiously avoidant. I need to be able to flick you away because then I can feel more in control. I can feel more powerful. I can feel more secure. But when you can feel like that without the need to pull, like push someone away or to pull them closer, without that, it's relationships will be even more of a difficulty, because relationships can be hard regardless, even if you're securely attached. But that's the foundation, isn't it? Becoming very comfortable and secure in your own identity and who you are.
And really, like, where is that developed? It's in early years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that if, you know, I don't want people to think, oh, well, if I didn't have that, then
it's a done deal.
It's a done deal. You know, I think it's something that people can still work on, can't they? As long as they have that self-awareness to understand, you know, am I somebody that's maybe, you know, if they're describing themselves as quite needy in a relationship, I would often say, okay, that's like quite an anxious attachment. If there's somebody who's quite like, oh, I only need to see my partner like once every 2 weeks, you know, that I'd say it's quite an avoidant attachment. You know, playing with very loose things here, and you know, that's often going to come from a childhood where you either had to ramp it up to get your needs met, And whether that would be, as a child, maybe through crying, or being upset or being quite loud, to, really feel the need to be seen, because we do need to be seen.
Yeah.
And we do need to have that love and that safety and that security.
Definitely.
Or that, maybe caregivers weren't emotionally available to you. So I'm not saying that you were abandoned, because it doesn't have to be as traumatic as that. Your parents could very much have been at home all the time, but they just weren't emotionally available to you.
Yeah.
So you learnt to just do it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't like a reliable source.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've again gone deep with this one, haven't we?
Quite deep.
But I think that's like MO, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we said, we want to go deep into the human experience.
We're going deep into the human experience.
So again, we're posing more questions to you. What does it mean to have power in a relationship? What does it mean to let someone down? Why do you feel the need to take care of someone to the detriment of your own needs? Yeah, that's the question that I would pose back to you. And ultimately, if you are thinking about ending a relationship and you know it's not working for you right now, that is enough of a sign to say, I think it's time to end this.
Or to even just start having those conversations.
Or start having those conversations.
Because sometimes I feel like if you decide to end a relationship, like, you have to have had decided and that's it. But hopefully you're both in a grown up enough conversation, grown up enough relationship to be able to just have that conversation. And I that's a scary thing to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this should come easily and naturally, but I think to be able to say, or to feel first and think, this just doesn't feel right to me. And then to be able to sit down with your partner and say, I have felt this way, that it doesn't feel right. How are you feeling?
Yes, exactly. Because then that comes back to the point we were making earlier about, what does this growing apart look like? And actually, is it salvageable? Just because you've decided in your mind that actually we're growing apart and that's it, we have to go our separate ways. Well, I don't know. Maybe there is some negotiation there. Maybe there is some compromise there. Again, to see how your partner is feeling without making assumptions also about how he's going to feel, how he's going to respond, what he's thinking. Yes, having a discussion.
Because it's quite a void, isn't it? She's having those discussions with herself.
Yeah.
She's not co-creating in that relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what relationships are about, is co-creation together.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, if this has been your dilemma, or if you're going through something similar, to find that internal courage and sit down and have those difficult conversations if they feel safe to do so.
I second that.
I think we've got time for one more today.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, so this comes in from a male in his 40s, and he is saying, I work with someone that I really struggle to get along with. They disagree with my ideas, block my initiatives, and undermine me. It feels like they are blocking my career. How can I take control of my feelings of frustration and resentment to this person?
This is a good one. This is a juicy one.
He's not said much, but I think he said a lot.
He said a lot. I was thinking those are some strong words there. Like, someone is undermining you. They are blocking your career. There is frustration. There is resentment. Okay, I would say to this individual, frustration is there for a reason. Anger is there for a reason. Even though we feel the experience of anger and frustration isn't pleasant, it doesn't mean that the emotion is wrong or bad. Anger can actually be very helpful because it lets you know that something isn't working for you. And we tend to feel anger when we feel disrespected, when we feel hurt, abused, betrayed. So it's a useful emotion because then we can move forward in action. But how we respond is very important in order to avoid being in order to avoid being aggressive or passive aggressive, we want to be assertive in voicing our frustration and our anger. So I would start with, have you had a conversation with this individual? Or even if you don't feel ready to have a conversation with this individual, I think maybe you could have a conversation with someone else who has eyes on the situation. And I say this not to gaslight you and to invalidate your feelings, but sometimes it's helpful to have some perspective. Because sometimes actually, whilst we should pay heed to our feelings, we shouldn't always take them as gospel and as fact and as truth. So objectively, what does this situation look like to other people? Are they seeing what you're seeing? I think that helps. It helps you first to clarify, okay, is what I'm feeling actually happening? Is my interpretation correct or incorrect? If it's correct, great. Now, if someone else can back that up, how can we move forward with having a conversation with this individual about how you're feeling and about how you are viewing the situation? Are they aware that this is how their behaviour is being perceived? It's important that, you communicate that and you don't continue to allow someone to almost have the power of your future. It's not right. It's not like the phrase just deeply upset me. The phrase, they're blocking your career. Oh my goodness, no one should have the right or the power to block anything of yours. So I'm really like in there with you with the feelings of frustration, and I want to help you think about gaining some clarity and perspective on this, and then really taking that information, which is your emotion, and moving forward intentionally and assertively to ascertain what's going on with this other individual.
And, I think those are really, really good ideas. I'm going to play devil's advocate now.
Go on then. I trust you to do that. I trust you.
So what if this person, he's got, let's say, like some sort of history, or he's tried to have communication? Because what he is saying, like, I'm struggling with this person now.
Yeah.
The struggle's already there. So that makes me feel like actually the communication's already broken down.
Yeah.
If the struggle's already there.
Yeah.
So if that communication is already broken down and that person isn't even, let's say, willing, because I think that often happens, doesn't it, in workplace settings?
Yeah.
Where you're struggling with someone, they're not even willing to have a conversation with you. Like, they just think they are outright right, and that they do believe that they are that powerful. Sometimes it could be a peer, sometimes it could be a senior.
True.
How do they get through that part of it?
Okay.
Because I guess I would be wanting to think about putting the onus back on this individual.
Yeah. It sounds like that's what they want to do as well. They want to feel like they can control
because they're feeling
their
quite
feelings
out of
of
control.
frustration. So I don't know if my advice is going to necessarily be a psychologist's advice. I would like to help this person feel like they can empower themselves, and sometimes we need to realize how far we can go and where our limits are. And we need to ascertain what are our values in this situation. What are our priorities? Because you could say to yourself, or I could say to you, okay, maybe you just need to accept that this is who this person is, and that is how they behave in a work situation. And rather than taking it personally, just accept that you're always going to come against backlash. You're always going to not feel undermined, but you're always going to feel someone pushing against you and trying to pull you back, and continue to feel, I don't know, like you have, push forward with the courage to be persistent in your goal, which is I'm going to succeed. I'm gonna progress in this career regardless of what someone else is saying or doing. And when they push, I'm just going to push back too. I could say that. But alternatively, if your value or your priority is your mental health and your well-being and your peace of mind, and you find that despite having conversations, this person is persistent in how they want to behave and no one else is checking them, which can happen also.
Because often what happens is I think people get afraid.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's why sometimes these behaviours keep happening in workplace settings.
No one wants to confront the bully.
Yeah.
Or the person who has more leverage.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to ascertain whether this is the right environment for you. That's why I say it may be a bit controversial, because
I think that's a really fair comment, actually.
Okay, it's like I'm advocating for you to leave, but I'm advocating for you to decide what are your priorities, what are your values. If your value maybe is financial security at this time, okay, we can see that actually staying is the most beneficial thing for you right now, and there will have to be a way of tolerating and accepting that this is just how the situation is. If nothing is going to change, this person's going to change, the work culture isn't going to change. But if your values are peace, mental stability, mental well-being, feeling a sense of like a supportive work environment, then maybe you need to rethink, how can I move out of this situation and into something that will better support my needs right now? It's not going to be easy, but it's a difficult question to pose.
And I don't think that either one of those is right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying there. You know, to think about your values is so important. And they're going to change at different points in our lives. So, you know, like in your 20s, financial stability might be one of your top values. But then in your 40s or your 50s, it might not be. It might be more things like spirituality or recreation or connection. And I feel like with values, it's always really important to use them as a guide.
Yeah.
You know, use them as that compass that give you that direction and give you that purpose. And to keep checking in with yourself, you know, am I living my life in line with what my purpose is, with what my values are, rather than this is the goal that I need to meet right now in this career or in this relationship, whatever it might be. I really like what you said there about actually you need to maybe go a bit inwards and think about what your values are.
Yeah.
Before you maybe decide how you need to handle the situation.
Yeah.
I would also be encouraging this guy to think about, you know, the reaction that he's having to this colleague is quite strong. It sounds like on paper, it was quite visceral, wasn't it, as I was reading it?
Yeah.
Which gives me and my psychology mind a bit of like ding, 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 ding. Like, I wonder who this person could be in this person's life previously or still.
Yeah.
Like, why is he having such a strong reaction to this person? Who is he reminding him of?
Yeah.
Who else has maybe treated him in a similar way?
Yeah.
That's made him feel... He feels quite small in comparison to this other person who seems quite large.
Yep. And who has a lot of control and say and power over him.
And often, you know, there's something here about a lack of autonomy almost. Like, you know, this person is blocking my career.
Yeah.
And can he remember a time where he didn't feel like he had autonomy? That, you know, maybe other people were maybe dictating things for him or pressuring him to, you know, think a certain way or stifling his ideas and not allowing him to develop and grow and have these insights and take risks. And
yeah. I think that's a good point, and that's why I would also recommend the seeking other people's perspectives, because it may just be that even though this is how you are feeling, or maybe this is, you know, the other person is presenting in a particular way, your interpretation of that is not based on an objective viewpoint. It's based on history.
Yeah.
And so what you're really responding to is the person in your past, not necessarily this individual. But it could be the case, actually, that this is history repeating itself. And if I were also to play devil's advocate, as a psychologist sat in the room with this individual, I'd want to be gleaning, how does this person show up and how do other people respond to them? So I'd really be paying attention to how I feel in the room with this individual. How am I meeting them in the room? Will that give some clue as to why this dynamic plays out? If I'm sat in the room with this person, do I feel like I want to control them? Do I want to put them down? Do I get frustrated or impatient with them? Then I think that gives further clue into, okay, what role are you taking in life? Like, how are you showing up in your own life?
Maybe some sort of people pleasing going on there.
Yeah. Or like a need to kind of like be subservient and to bring himself down. You know, I think that is also an important part of this discussion that that doesn't necessarily jump out straight away.
No, and because he's not actually said that much, has he?
No.
Which is
no.
It allows us to
pick holes or to go a bit further.
Yeah. But that in itself is quite telling. Like, he's not given us that much, and so, you know, it's again feeling quite small.
Yeah.
Like, like you said, how is he presenting himself? What role is he taking on? Who is he with other people? Is he somebody that tends to give more space to other people, and then so has learnt, because he gives more space to other people, to create less space for himself, to make himself smaller?
Yeah. Interesting one.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on him?
To the point where I said I wonder also about this person, how they present. I wonder how they deal with conflict as well, and how they have previously managed it with this person at work, but also previously.
Like personal life as well.
Yeah, personally, like, what is conflict? Is conflict okay?
Yeah.
Is it okay to be in conflict? Is it okay to be confronted with someone who has different opinions to you, has a different viewpoint? Or does it seem like other people, when they are themselves and they take up space, that is an affront to you because you're not doing it yourself? So yeah, I'd also want to know a bit more about that.
Yeah, because I wonder if there's something in that as well. Like, as somebody is taking up more space, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Is there like anger, which obviously it sounds like there is, but is that anger passive?
Yeah.
Or is that anger like loud?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take up more space then.
Yeah, I'm going to compete.
Yeah.
So really, with this and every other dilemma or anything really that we struggle with, when we are looking at another person and we're thinking, gosh, like, I have a problem with this behavior, or this that I'm seeing, this is what I'm seeing in another person, it's always to go inwards. I'm really being distracted by that.
Aeroplane.
I know. Apologies.
It's just gone round and round and round today, hasn't it?
All throughout. We've had to deal with our own frustration and lack of control.
It's been testing us.
It has, a lack of control over this situation. But anyway.
We wanted to create certainty.
Yeah.
And it did not go to plan.
It didn't go to plan. And we had to push through regardless. Tolerate the distress. Sorry, I feel so distracted. Can you repeat that?
Okay. Can I remember it?
I don't know. Sally's question. Oh yeah, I know what I was saying. So we always want to come back to, going inside, and you can't control another person. You can ask people to change, you can ask people to adapt, but ultimately it's good to go inwards.
And I think sometimes the default for people is, when we're feeling unsettled, we often try and control outside of ourselves. be it the situation or other people, their behaviours, if only they would do this, this and this, then that would make me feel better. That would make me manage better.
Exactly.
And I mean, we can't control anyone. We can't control any type of situation. You know, it really is about that. If you notice yourself doing that, going out, come back in, keep pulling yourself back in, go inwards, go deeper, you know, use this as information. What is it telling about you? What is it triggering inside you? Discomfort is good. Like, we don't need to shy away from discomfort. You know, it's not all about always being positive and happy. Like, I just don't like that sort of stuff. Use your discomfort as a curiosity mechanism to think deeper about yourself. And, you know, this is why we're on the floor. This is what this really is about.
Yeah. Getting down to the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. Going inwards and going deep.
Oh, okay. I feel like we've really gone deep today.
We have, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, what did you learn today?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I have learned, or maybe I continue to learn, and this continues to be reinforced, the ability to tolerate distress when things don't turn out how we anticipated. And case in point being this person who's decided to go round and round and round in a loop today in the aeroplane. They've got their own plan, but it didn't fit in with mine. And I just had to accept that, okay, this is not going to be perfect. And I hope it's going to be good enough and it's going to be okay. And that people will be gracious. That actually this hasn't been a perfectly recorded podcast today.
I hope none of them are, to be honest.
Okay. All right then. Okay, Ritz.
Because that really does go, you know, that's again about tolerating for us that not everything, you know, we put out our best.
I know.
Are good enough.
So yeah, that's what I've learned today. What about you?
I really liked what you said about checking in with your values in that moment, or in where you are in your life at that moment. I think sometimes it's so easy to think that, you know, we have this life and we're meant to have, you know, financial goals, relationship goals, family goals, activity goals, and it's like, do everything. And I don't think that you can do everything. I don't think it's healthy to try and do everything. And I think that it's made me think about, you know, I've been in quite a big turning point in my life, I'd say, over the last couple of months in a really nice way. But that has made me, and it's kind of reignited that again, this idea of what are my values right now. And not doing all of those values. Like, what's really important to me right now? And how do I, you know, try and live my life in line with a couple of those? So I really like that. Thank you.
That's okay.
What have you guys learnt today? We would love to know. What do you take away? Drop us a comment down below. Just remember to please like and subscribe and follow us on our social media channels. This is Dr. Ritz
and Dr. Vicky.
And we'll see you on the floor very, very soon.
Bye.
Bye.